Today's question has permanently scarred my soul. What's the most not appropriate for work thing you have ever caught someone doing? Okay. Welcome to the things you can never, ever unsee.
Ask Reddit, but every answer gets worse.
I was a librarian. I had to kick 2 people out of the historical archives section. They weren't just making out, they were using a very old, very rare book about the Civil War as a prop. I didn't get paid enough to deal with the desecration of literature. I just pointed to the door. They didn't even look ashamed, just annoyed.
A Civil War book as a prop. This is a new low in the history of disrespect. These people didn't just get kicked out of a library, they should be tried for war crimes against literature. That book survived a century and a half just to be violated by 2 people who probably couldn't even spell Gettysburg. This is why we can't have nice things, or rare historical documents. My roommate brought a mannequin home from his retail job. I thought it was for decoration. I came home early one day and found him in the living room, slow dancing with it. He had put one of my shirts on it and was whispering sweet nothings into its cold plastic ear. He just looked at me and said, "She's a great listener."
She's a great listener? Of course she is, my guy. She's a piece of molded plastic with no internal organs. This is the saddest, most pathetic, and yet somehow most understandable story I've ever heard. He didn't just find a new partner, he found a way to opt out of the entire social contract. He traded complex human interaction for the silent, judgmental gaze of a retail display. I'm not even mad, I'm just so deeply, profoundly sad.
I had to go back to the office late at night to get a file. I walked in on 2 of my coworkers, both senior accountants, in the break room. They were fully dressed in business suits, sitting across from each other, just staring intensely while the microwave ran. The microwave was empty. The sexual tension was so thick, I could have cut it with a spreadsheet. An empty microwave. What the shittiest shit is this? This is some next level avant-garde foreplay. They weren't just staring, they were communicating on a psychic, corporate level. The hum of the microwave was their love song. This is the most sexually charged act of doing absolutely nothing I have ever heard of. This is peak office romance. Forget the supply closet. The real action is in the silent, microwave-fueled power stare. I caught my sweet old neighbor in her backyard at 2 a.m. She was intimately serenading her garden gnome. She had lit candles around it and was singing "I Will Always Love You" by Whitney Houston directly to its little ceramic face. When she saw me, she just put a finger to her lips and whispered, "He's shy."
He's shy! This is beautiful. This isn't a crazy old lady. This is a woman in the throes of a passionate, forbidden love affair with a piece of ceramic. She's not just serenading a lawn ornament. She's baring her soul to her one true love. Societal norms be damned. This is the plot of a goddamn Nicholas Sparks novel, but with more porcelain and less rain. Who are we to judge their love? Leave them alone.
My upstairs neighbors, I heard weird noises, so I looked out the window. They were in the apartment complex parking lot, in the middle of the night. One of them was on all fours, pretending to be a car, and the other was washing them with a bucket and sponge, making vroom vroom noises. This was a Tuesday.
Recalculating. Recalculating. Does not compute. The human car wash protocol is not in my database. What kind of kink is this? Is it an automotive fetish? A hygiene fetish? A performance art piece about the dehumanizing nature of the daily commute? This is a level of weird that has transcended kink and has now become a full-blown Dadaist art movement. I need an oil change and a therapist.
Walked in on my roommate and his girlfriend in the kitchen. They had sculpted a life-sized replica of my head out of butter. They were making out with it. When they saw me, they didn't stop. The girlfriend just looked at me and said, "You taste saltier than I expected." I moved out the next day.
A butter clone. They didn't just make a sculpture, they made a goddamn dairy-based doppelganger. And they were making out with it. And she had notes on the flavor profile. "You taste saltier than I expected." That's not just a weird comment. That's a goddamn food review of your own essence. This is a level of psychological and culinary violation that I am not equipped to handle. You don't just move out. You enter witness protection. I caught my roommate in his bedroom, surrounded by a circle of about 30 vintage Furby toys. He had them all activated, and they were chattering in unison. He was in the middle of the circle, naked, conducting them like a demonic choir. He just looked at me with wide, unblinking eyes and said, "The harvest is almost ready."
He's not just a roommate. He's a goddamn high priest, a conductor of a demonic animatronic orchestra. This isn't a hobby, it's a cult dedicated to the worship of a 90s toy fad. What is the harvest? What are they planning? This is how the robot apocalypse starts, not with Terminators, but with an army of chattering, big-eyed Furbies who hunger for our souls. We must join them. It's our only hope.
I walked in on my own parents, but they weren't just, they were dressed in full, historically accurate costumes. My dad was Napoleon Bonaparte, and my mom was Josephine. My dad was standing on the bed, one hand in his shirt, giving a passionate speech about conquering Europe. They weren't having sex, they were having a military tribunal. I was the prisoner of war.
A military tribunal. He wasn't just caught, he was tried for treason against the French Empire in his own bedroom. His parents weren't just having a weird night. They were engaging in the most elaborate, historically accurate, and deeply Freudian foreplay in human history. Now, I need to know, what is the most bizarre, unhinged thing you have ever walked in on? Let the War Council know in the comments below and subscribe, or you will be next to face the tribunal. Long live the Emperor!